skill in weapons and symbiotic tactics, with me as absolute ruler. If you don't want to be a part of this incredible vision, then you can get a space taxi back to planet Idiot.
I'm TJ Laser, expert with lasers and phasers. Definitely discouraged.
Where are we?
Lasers and phasers. Lasers and phasers.
Imagine
Good evening everyone and welcome to round number 7 of our Wheel to Wheel Tier 2 F1 2019 Championship, and today the calendar brings us to the St. Lawrence River, to the city of Montreal and the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. 14 corners, 4.5 kilometers of pure adrenaline and high-speed action as the drivers are full throttle through over 80% of this lap. Only a few braking zones into the chicanes slow down or lower the average speed around this track. Plenty of overtaking spots, plenty of DRS zones, and slipstream is definitely going to be of use around this track. Now with that, we're going to get ourselves going to our qualifying session. Just give me a second, sorting everything out on my second monitor. There are some cars already getting out of the pit to the track, so getting that sorted out. Okay. And yeah, here we are. Of course, the game decided to give me. Can I fix it? Okay, it fixed it. Going to pause and then pause the unpausing it. Fixed it for us. Yeah, we have a couple cars out on track already. We have a few debutees as well. Both Williams drivers are making their debut as the new lineup for the Williams. They are both the new full-time drivers for the Williams. We also have Squirrel, Sepik Squirrel, a new full-time driver for the Haas, also making his debut today, and Kat is making his debut as a reserve driver for the Renault today, as Gary Gunn unfortunately wasn't able to take part in today's race. So, going to try to take a look at where everyone is on track. We have one of the Ferraris. Is it Progza? I believe it's Progza. I believe he's the first one to start a flying lap. So the winner of last championship round at Monaco. We are going to go on board with him as we start our lap. Up through the gears as we approach the 100-meter marker on the right hand side. Hard on the throttle. You take a nice and easy first corner apex. The second one is a bit harder. You go uphill as well under the acceleration. Now a bit of a tricky spot to brake at for the corners 4 and 5. Let's get now to the right hander of turn 6. Heavy on the brakes once again into the chicane that ends the first sector. Turn 7 and 8 hard on the traction as well as the tires start to wear out. That might be a problematic section for our drivers. Now just before reaching the bridge, hard once again on the brakes for the chicane, and once again acceleration is important for this sprint until 100 meters away from the airpin, one of the most important corners of the circuit. You need to get good on the brakes and also good on the axis as you get on the kings of turns 12 and 14, or 13 and 14, as now you just prepare yourself for the last two corners of the circuit. Beware the wall of champions on the right hand side. You want to take it as straight as you can. The RS wide open at the exit of the corner, getting up through the gears, and there you have it. It is a 1-3 or a 110.0, beaten not yet by anybody else. He was the first one to cross the line. Georgia does a 110.9. He can improve on that, I'm sure. Followed only to 111.1. Also have a few cars going for their fast laps. Amateur Gamer and Lasher got their laps nullified. Lasher is the only driver on the hards for the time being, as Delta is the first driver to go below the 110s, puts the Ferrari on a provisory pole. We also have one of the Renaults coming to close out their lap. That could be Cat. Yes, it is Cat's third place for the reserve driver, as Jay not too far behind on the mediums. So that was a compromising lap, or a promising lap rather. 110.373. Cohen Blake is out of the session after that 111.8. I'm not sure what happened to him, but he is out of the session. We have Lasher, Brazen, Black Widow nullifying their laps. Ajox is also getting back to the pits. Let me try to take a look at Lasher. He's also on 0 ERS. Amateur Gamer is bringing the car to the pits. Maybe Lasher is doing the same, not sure. Let's take a look as well to the Red Bulls. Black Widow is taking the car to the pits. Let's see about Brazian. Is he going now? He's going to complete his lap, so his second attempt at the flying lap. Let's see what he does. He's going to cross over the line, and it's going to be a 1:9.8. Look at that! Just over 1/10 away from pole position. Very good lap there from Brazian. Of course, unfortunately, those are tires that he took an extra lap on to get that time. But unfortunately, well, he's going to try to improve on that on a brand new set next time, I'm sure of that. In the meantime, we have Lasher on his second lap on the hards. His first 2 laps got nullified, so he's going to go for another attempt. I see in chat, where is Cuba? Cuba was late for qualifying. He's probably going to join the lobby in the meantime and start from last for the race. Lasher is on mode 1 of ERS. I'm not sure if he's just practicing laps, or I'm not sure what he's doing at the moment, but yeah, we're going to figure out later on what times he's capable of posting. In the meantime, we have the Bulgarian driver of the Alfa Romeo. We have Crime on his outlap. We also have Aziox on an outlap, and Epic Squirrel or Sepic Squirrel closing his his outlap. Let's see now how it goes on his flying lap, and he's in the wall, and that's it for his qualifying session. That was an abrupt end to it, and the wall is glitching. That could create a set of problems of their own. Let's see how it goes. So Crime is approaching the area where Squirrel crashed out. Not the greatest debut for the Haas driver. Hopefully his car is ghosted. Crime opted to avoid him, but yeah, hopefully the Haas is ghosted. Otherwise we could have a few drivers have some quite bad luck at this point. But let's see how it goes. We have Crime. Oh, and finally Cuba has joined the session. So yeah, he's going to start from last of the pack because he was too late to attend qualifying. In the meantime, Crime, let's take a look at his history of results. He got himself 11th at Australia, then he bounced back with a 5th place at Bahrain, which is still to date his best finishing position. Then he got 10th at China, 8th at Azerbaijan, 6th at Spain, and didn't complete the Monaco Grand Prix. So it is going to be hopefully another bounce back race for him after not scoring any points at Monaco. Hopefully he can have a good performance here in Canada. Let's see how he starts his race weekend, starting with the completion of this flying lap. He's on the mediums at this point, which suggests to me he's going to try to do the one-stop strategy. It looked like he took a bit too he went to the middle of the track in the braking zone. Not sure what happened there, but that certainly compromised his angle. Nonetheless, he's going to do a 1:11.0, but yeah, he got his lap nullified, I suppose, at the end of the lap through the chicane. It looked to me like he corner cut a bit. Yeah, that was probably what happened. We have Amateur Gaming making his debut. Let's see what he does. He's about to close out his lap, his qualifying lap. Let's see how it goes for him. In the meantime, we have George, the Bolivian driver of the Racing Point, gets a 1:9.6. That's beaten by Proxo with a 1:09.4. The times are dropping quite fast at the moment. Amateur Gamer to 1:9.4. Gets P2. Delta is going to start his flying laps. We're going to check up on him in a second. Jay nullifies his lap. Radek is about to close the lap of his own. Colored Lonely is also about to start his flying lap. So let's see what the Mercedes does, getting himself now through the last chicane. Nice and easy out of the last chicane. Let's see how it does now. Can he improve? Yes, he does, with a 1:9.8, granting him P5 for the time being. In the meantime, Lasher is still going out there on our tires. And we have a few drivers in the pits. We have a few drivers who just started their flying laps, like Ajox, for example, who is about to get it done. Let's see, can he improve on that 1:12.0? Hopefully he can. Let's see what the McLaren does. No, he actually cannot, so maybe a mistake there, and he's potentially going to try again later on. Cat, the reserve driver of the Renault, is on a outlap, just like Brazian just got out of the pits, overtaking the McLaren there, trying to look for someone who could be. Where is Colored Lonely? Colored Lonely already completed his lap with a 1:10.2. Where is I could swear there was another driver. That's probably Cohen Blake, who is also out. I'm not sure. I could swear there was another driver going for a flying lap. So, yeah. I might have missed it somehow. We have yellow flags in Sector 3. Not sure what happened there, but I also can't see anyone who has crashed or anything. The yellow flags have been lifted, so it doesn't look like it was anything too serious. In the meantime, let me take a look at Cat and Jay. So, it's going to be Cat, then Brazen, then Jay completing their laps in this order. Then Black Widow, who has yet to post a lap time, is also on out lap, the Dutch driver of the Red Bull. Let's see how she does in the upcoming flying lap. She is on the softs for the time being, so we are going to see what performance she can extract of her Red Bull in the minutes to come. In the meantime, we are going on board with Cat, her debut qualifying session, looking for the black box on the right hand side of the track as we approach this chicane. Now you need to have good traction. Looks like it was a smooth exit from Cat. It's going to get ourselves through the gears into turns 8 and 9. The chicane, ooh, a little bit of correction there, and ran out of tarmac. In the wall is the Renault, and that's going to be a nullification of the lap. Brazen is going to come through to complete his lap. He is improving, I believe, at the moment. This gets now through the left-hand kink of turn 11 and the right kink of turn 12, opening the RS, mode number 5 of ERS. Some say mode 4 does give a higher top-end speed, but Brazen is opting to maintain the 5th mode of ERS, getting cleanly through the last chicane. He's going to improve on that 109.8. Let's see how it goes, and yes, he does! P2 for Brazen. Look at that, just less than a tenth from P2 to P1, very close between the two of them. In the meantime, we have Jay about to finish the lap as well. He's improving by 8 tenths at this point of the lap. Let's see how it gets through the last chicane. Looks like it was a good trajectory through there. I don't see the game nullifying his lap because of that chicane. He's going to cross the line, and it is P2, even quicker than Brazen and even closer to Progza. P2 for the Williams driver. Nicely done. Let's see what the others do. Black Widow has completed a lap but got a lap nullified, so she has to try to improve on that one later on. Amateur Gamer and George are still a little behind on the lap compared to Crime, so Crime is going to be the next one to finish it. Ooh, a little bonk there on the wall. Heavy damage to his front wing. Nonetheless, he's going to get P10 with a 110.9, as we have just a little over 5 minutes to go in the session. In the meantime, we have Georgia and Amateur Gamer. Ooh, and we have Gozieg there. I'm not sure what's going on. Okay, Gozieg is behind. So we have Amateur Gamer. There's contact with Aziox. I'm not sure why Aziox was there. George went back into the pits, and Amateur Gamer does not improve. 3 tenths slower, so it's going to stay put in P4 for the time being. Aziox is going to the pits. Gozieg is already in sector number 3. Let's see what the Frenchman does. Can he improve? Sorry, not improve. Can he post a lap time that would get him in the top 10? Let's see how it goes. Going hard on the brakes for this last combination of corners, and it's going to cross over the line. It's going to be a time of 110. Yes, 110.9, but it was nullified. So just like Black Widow, not going to be able to post a lap time at this point. Going to have to get back on the garage, switch tires, and then perhaps he can get a competitive lap time. Meantime, we have Cat, who after the mistake has gone back to the pits. Is already out there on a brand new set of softs, about to start is a flying lap. So let's get on board with the Renault up through the gears. 100 meters away from turn 1, you go hard on the brakes. You can cut a little bit off the curb there. It is allowed. Now we have to be smooth on the throttle application. Coming uphill through the exit of turn 2. Now downhill into 3 and 4. Let's get through the right, the left-hand king of turn 5 and the right turn 6. Before going on the brakes once again. A little bit wide on the apex of turn 7. On the curb of turn 8 and settled the car. Nice correction. Nice reflexes there from the Renault driver to correct the car. At the end of sector 2, getting through turns 9 and 10. Quick on the throttle, once again losing the rear and is in the wall. Cat once again. I just can't go on board with him. Every single time he loses the rear coming out of turn 10. Having quite a bit of issue with that corner, and once again the Renault is on the wall. I don't even know if he has any more brand new soft tires to start the race on. Nonetheless, he still has the 9th place assured, at least so far. He can still get demoted, but at least he's in 9th place for the time being. But yeah, I don't know if he has any soft tires available. Nonetheless, he's going to definitely have to go into the pits for a replacement. In the meantime, Black Widow is going to have another go at it. She's about to start his flying lap. Colored Lonely even closer to the start of his flying lap. And Proxa is a little bit further behind. So let's go on board with our championship leader. He who hasn't finished below 6th place in this season so far. Got 4th place at Australia, 6th at Bahrain, then won his first race at China. Azerbaijan, he only came up 3rd after colliding with the wall in the castle section, losing out 2nd place to his own teammate. Then he came back to the winning column at a very tricky Spain race, and at Monaco he wasn't able to beat Proxa, who got his first win, so Colored Lonely had to settle for a P2. So already 4 podiums, 5 top 5 finishes as well for the Serbian driver. Let's see how he does. He's improving by half a second at this point, so 1:09.7 territory at this point. He needs to improve a little bit on that one if he wants to get on pole. Let's see how it goes. DRS wide open at the back of the car. Mode 4 of DRS coming through the gears. Just over 330 kilometers per hour to go hard on the brakes into the last chicane. Do the right, do the left, avoid the wall of champions. Nice and easy on the throttle as well on the exit. Gets across the line and it is a 1:09.4. Getting him up to P5 just above his teammate. Also have Proxa about to finish his lap. We have Crime just starting his flying lap. And let's see, Proxa is going to abort his lap actually. He's not going to have time to do any better than that, so looks like he's content with the lap he's posted so far. Radek and Crime are just starting their flying laps. Actually, I believe Radek is on the 3rd sector. Yes, he's on the 3rd sector, but something happened. He's going very slowly. Maybe he got his lap nullified and he's going to try to improve. Hopefully he can still make it to the start of his own lap. We have Jay, who started his lap in the meantime. He's still in the 1st sector. We have Delta in sector 2 improving by 2/10. There's a bit of traffic in front of him. Crime also in the 2nd sector. We have Lasher getting through the hairpin. Is losing 1 second to his previous best time, so something must have happened to him. He's actually on mode number 0 of VRS. I am not sure if he's going to be able to cross the line. Is he going to be able to? I'm not sure at all if he's going to be able to post a lap time. He's still 11th for the time being, but I'm not sure at all. Yeah, he's not going to be able to get started with his flying lap. And there you have it. We have Proxa, Jay Brazen, and Amateur Gaming on the spots. They are going to maintain the spots in the best of cases. Delta gets P7, Crime P10, Lasher P11, Azox P13, Goziak 15th, and Black Widow won't be able to do any better than that. Cat gets a 5-place penalty for a collision with George 209. As you can see, the Bolivian went into the wall. That is into the turn 7-8 chicane, I believe. So he's going to nurse his car back home. And Cat has also aborted his lap. So, yeah, I believe nobody else is going to try to complete a lap. I don't think anybody else is on a flying lap. So, unfortunately, Goziag and Black Widow are starting without any... Oh, and another penalty for Cat for collision with Crime this time around. Not exactly sure. That was with Yai, but he's still going to get the penalty. That is rather unfortunate, but yeah, it is what it is. So looks like Cat will have a 10-place grid penalty for the start of the race. George also wasn't able to complete his lap. He could probably have done better and get himself into the top 5. Nonetheless, surprising to see Colored Lonely not go above P5. So Hopefully he can have a better race pace. Let's see how it goes. We have Lasher with the best position at the start of the race to do the one stop. Of course, everyone ahead of him is starting on the softs. So actually Lasher will start from P10, not even from P11. He will still have the free choice of tires because he qualified in P11, but he's going to start from P10 because of the penalties of Cat. So it is what it is, and he's going to be starting the race on the mediums, I would suppose, to do the one stop. Look at that, less than a 10 separating the top 3, very close from them. Amateur Gamer in 4th place with a great debut, only battered by his teammate's debut. We have Colored Lonely in P5, followed by his teammate as Delta gets P7, Radek in P8. Cat is starting from the back of the pack as we have Crime in 9th and Lasher closing the top 10. After that we have Cohen Blake, Aziox, Sepik Scroll, Gozdiag, Black Widow, and we have Cuba coming into the lobby. Was too late to take part of the qualifying session, but is going to start from the back of the pack for the race. And I am actually not sure if Cat is going to start behind Cuba or not. I'm actually interested in seeing how the game sorts that one out. And we have already started the transition into the race, so just going to wait for the drivers to get sorted out with their strategies. There might be rain though, for all the drivers to be starting on the softs and how menacing the clouds look. There might be rain. I'm actually going to go on Steam and throw a message to ask to the drivers if there is any rain. Is there any rain predicted? I'm going to get an answer in a second from Black Widow. So hopefully she can answer to me in a bit. Yeah, she have all the drivers sorting out their strategies, and while they sort those out, we can talk about them as well. So according to my data, you can take softs to hards, pitting at lap 11, or you can do not softs to hard, medium to hard, pitting at lap 11 and taking the hards to the end, or you could do soft, medium, pitting for the first time at lap 8 and for the second time at lap 21 to take another set of mediums to the end. So at the moment I'm going to get the data for you guys. As you can see, Lasher is starting on the hards, actually not even starting on the mediums, he's starting on the hards. So he wants to do the one stop but also have the fastest tire out of the one stop strategies at the end of the Grand Prix. So everyone in the top 9 on softs, then Lasher in the hards. That might compromise his start though, because of course there's not as much grip on those tires. Cohen Blake in 11th, Aziox in P12, Sepik Scroll in P13, and Gozag in 14th. Both McLarens and the Haas on softs, then Black Widow on mediums, Cat on softs, and Cab is actually starting ahead of Cuba, who is the other driver who opted to start on the hards. He's already last, so he just has to keep himself out of trouble, just try to do his best to not get involved in any incidents in the first couple corners. But let's see how it goes for them, as we have Progs up quite far away from everybody else. I'm not sure that is going to benefit him, because he's going to be sitting idle for quite a while as he waits everybody else to get on the grid marks, and that time he's sitting there is probably going to cool down his car, so he might be compromising himself by pulling that far ahead of his rivals. Nonetheless, they are gradually arriving to the grid marks as the autopilot kicks in, driving the cars to stop on their respective grid marks. Let's see how it goes for them though. We have Jay leading the right side of the grid with his teammate right behind him in 4th. Proxa on pole. Can he make it 2 race wins in a row? We are going to find out in the laps to come, as we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. Lights out, and away we go for the Canadian Grand Prix. A good start from Jay, a good start from Amateur Gamer, already side by side with Brayson. Brayson does have the inside line into turn 1. He's going to maintain P3, he's going to cover the Williams, and Call It Lonely is going to try to have a go at the Williams. Let's see, it's going to be a traction battle now. Proxa drops out to P3, as Jay gets into P1. Brayson goes on the inside of them. There is contact between the Williams and the Red Bull. Proxa moves up to P2, that's going to compromise Jay. Amateur Gamer might capitalize on that one. We also have a Ferrari side by side. It is Delta and Crime juking it out for P7. Crime gets a bit sideways coming out of turn number 7 into turn number 8. He has a bit of contact with Delta, drops down to P9 as Radek takes advantage of that one. Cohen Blake might actually try to capitalize on that one as the McLaren and the Ferrari are side by side. Radek jumps back, the German, and gets back into P8. In the meantime, we have Brazen leading the race, followed by Proxa with Jay in P3, Amateur Gamer in P4, then Colored Lonely, followed by George Crime in P7. We already have yellow flags in Sector 3. That might have been Asiox. There is a bit of carbon fiber missing on the front wing of the McLaren, so very unfortunate for him. In the meantime, Cuba starting in last place is already up to P13. We have Lasher going side by side with Cohen Blake into the chicane. That might get dicey. There is contact and Cat is in the wall. Cat is in the wall, is still ahead of Lasher. So the Romanian is going to have to stick behind the Renault for the time being. Asiox and Black Widow both going to the pits. Not the greatest start of the Grand Prix for them. In the meantime, Brazen already pulled away a couple cars lengths from the remaining drivers of the top 5. There's also a bit of a gap between Amateur Gamer and Colored Lonely. We have Radek with Delta all over his gearbox, going to Cohen Blake, who has prime view of the potential battle between the German and the track driver of the Mercedes. Let's see how it goes for them. Cuba, I believe he's in a Toro Rosso. Yes, he is in a Toro Rosso, but that is not where he was supposed to. It's just the lobby because he didn't arrive on time. He couldn't pick up his car. He is a Mercedes driver. Just today he's driving for Toro Rosso's Delta. Misses completely. Is braking zone into the hairpin of turn 10. Drops down to a P14. So an unfortunate mistake there from him. In the meantime, we have Cohen Blake and Radek coming toe to toe as they are side by side, and once again, did he hit the barrier? I'm not sure if he hit Wall of Champions, the Renault. No, he did not, but nonetheless, it is Cohen Blake having to maintain P9 for the time being. Lasher is going to the pits to get rid of his hard compound of tires. He's also going to get a front wing replacement. So unfortunately, strategy compromised for the Romanian Haas driver. Jumping back to the battle for P2, Brazen has been able to pull away. 1.5 seconds is the gap between first and second. Jay took the slipstream. Oh, there's contact between him and the Austrian driver of the Ferrari. That compromised the Ferrari's exit, and Amateur Gamer is going to capitalize, move up to P3. And Proxa, where is it? Did he lose the rear coming out? I'm going to try to figure it out. Maybe he lost the rear coming out of the chicane and has dropped down to P6. So the Ferrari not having the greatest of starts to the Grand Prix. The camera angle isn't really helping me at the moment. Looks like there's no damage in the front wing of the Ferrari, and Amateur Gamer taking that one and taking DRS jumps Jay. So both Williams are now P2 and P3 at the moment. We have also seen a bit of carbon fiber flying as Crime went into the Wall of Champions coming out of the last chicane. He has damage on the right side of his front wing. Cat and Radek are coming to blows into turn number 1. Cat is managing to defend from Radek, gets P9 at this point. So the Renault is going to stick ahead of the Mercedes. Jumping back to a potential battle between Georgia and Colored Lonely. The Bolivian is going to stick behind his teammate. He's going to get the RS at his disposal. Colored Lonely just lifts off. It's his teammate. Doesn't really want to lose time squabbling with his teammate. And Georgia moves up to P4. Now, taking a look at the gaps. Also have Radek very close to his rival, but we won't look at that for the time being. Going to take a look at Cohen Blake, who's challenging Crime around the outside of turn 10. Let's see, is he going for the switchback? No, he's not going to get the traction. Those medium tires don't give the necessary traction to pull that one off just yet. Jay does have the DRS on his teammate, but not close enough to pull a maneuver. We have a Crime leading that little bit of a train is going to the pits. Cohen Blake is going to inherit P7, Cat is going to inherit P8, Radek P9, and Cuba is going to get promoted into the top 10 after his start in last place. So after 5 laps he's already jumped 7 places, so very well done by the Toro Rosso driver. In the meantime, going to jump to the front of the pack once again, as Jay is still trying to follow his teammate, as he is in 3rd place at the moment. And of course Crime going to replace his front wing damage that he sustained by coming together with the Wall of Champions at the end of lap number 3, and with that one he's going to drop out to P16 actually, so not the great start of the race for the Alfa Romeo driver, who also did not finish the Monaco Grand Prix, so unfortunately for him not really going to or at least it won't be fighting for the top 5 positions unless something unusual happens. Jay getting ever closer to Amateur Gamer, not close enough to pull an attempt into the chicane. He's going to get a better exit out of it though. Looks like not. Amateur Gamer got a couple cars lanes, and Jay is just too far away. Who is not too far away is Delta, who is coming side by side with Cuba into the chicane. There could have been contact, but Cuba managing to keep control of his car. He's going to lose a couple of car lengths though. So let's see how that one goes. Delta does skip the RS and is going to capitalize on that to maintain P10. Epic Squirrel, or Sepic Squirrel, gets into the pits with a 5-second penalty for exceeding the speed limit entering the pit lane. Crime is also in the pits once again, 2nd time in 2 laps. Crime is in the pits, so they are going to jump to last and 2nd last. So very unfortunate stuff from them so far into this Grand Prix. And we have Radek. Maybe Cat had a mistake, because Radek gained 5 tenths in 2 corners alone, so maybe a mistake from Cat coming out of turn 8. Let's see. Oh, it's not turn, yes, turn 8, yeah, exactly, turn 8. Let's see now as we get now into turn number 10. Radek is going to take a look at the inside. He misses his braking zone. There is contact with him. Delta is just lurking right behind him, knocking on that P9 and P8. There's contact between the Renault and Radek. Delta says thank you very much, moves up to a P9. The Mercedes and the Ferrari are going to have the DRS on the Renault. It might get dicey. No, Cat decides to back out from any issues and is going to... Oh, Sepik has retired from the session. Going to try to take a look at what happened. Come on, game. Going to try to take a look at what happened. And yeah, looks like Squirrel just lost the rear coming out of turn 9 and went into the wall. Race over for the Haas. Cat is going to the pits, dropping down to P14 as he's going for his first stop onto a set of mediums. Lasher gets a 3-second time penalty, unfortunately for him, and Brazian and Radek are going at it once again. Brazian was leading the Grand Prix, already out of the pits on a brand new set on mediums, pulling the undercut on his most direct rivals, and to make his strategy this season quite crucial. Yes, he had a squabble with Radek, but now he has clean air in front of him, which is actually quite important at this point of the race. Kozieg also qualified from back at the pack, from close to the back of the pack. Cuba is right ahead of him, so both drivers having a good start so far. Amateur Gamer goes into the pits, Colored Lonely goes into the pits as well. Georgia inherits the lead of the Grand Prix as Jay moves down to P2. Cohen Blake, of course, also jumping a couple positions. Scuba is going side by side with Radek. The Mercedes goes into the pit lane, and let's see, will the McLaren be able to overtake the Toro Rosso? Looks like he's not going to be able to pull the trigger on it for the time being. So we have, that is Amateur Gamer coming out of the pit side by side with the McLaren. The McLaren is just ahead enough to close the door on the Northern Ireland driver, and is going to maintain himself in a P7. Amateur Gamer down to P8. Black Widow getting a 3-second time penalty for one too many corner cuts, unfortunately, as we have Colored Lonely in P9 and Progza in P10. So yeah, Progza, despite going for the undercuts, has still not been able to catch up to some of his rivals. Finally, Amateur Gamer gets past Koziag with the DRS zone from turns 7 to 8, or sorry, 6 to 7. And yeah, Amateur Gamer might now look himself to set his sights on Cuba. In the meantime, we have Brazen overtaking Delta for P4, and Amateur Gamer is going to definitely start closing in on the Toro Rosso. Let's see how it goes between them, going side by side into the braking zone. Ooh, there's still some fight there in Cuba's hard tires. Is going to maintain himself in P7. That really compromised the speed of his rivals. Delta goes into the pits in the meantime. Gozziag gets himself behind Jay, so Jay overtakes the McLaren, and we have quite a squabble here between Cuba and Colored Lonely. Cuba is going to have to back out from that. He's still going to get P5 as Colored Lonely is completing his first lap on the hards, on the mediums, and gets himself up to P4. 2 seconds away from Georgia though, so all that squabbling really cost him time to his teammate. Brazen is getting to P2. Cohen Blake hasn't pitted yet, so Brazen is going to inherit the lead once again. Radek with another penalty to his name. Amateur Gamer is once again trying to have a go at... Oh, we have yellow flags in sector 2. Not sure what is going on with them, as we have Gozziag and Proxa swapping positions. Amateur Gamer is right ahead of the Ferrari. Not sure if the Ferrari will have DRS at his disposal. We're going to find out rather soon. Yes, he does. And he has a great look at Amateur Gaming chasing down Cuba. Cuba is going to pick the inside line into the chicane. There is contact between them. It forces Amateur Gamer into the grass for the braking zone. That's very slow from him. Proxa has to go on avoiding action, loses the place to Jay, and Gozziag might be able to capitalize on that one. Let's see how good of a run he has. Not good enough to overtake the Austrian driver, and is going to settle for P9 for the time being. Quite chaotic, that's the moment there. All started with the contact between Cuba and Amateur Gamer. Amateur Gamer went on the grass because of Cuba, and that really threw things up in the air. That could have been some carnage. Fortunately, great driving from everyone to be able to avoid each other and keep the race clean. Now Lasher, after his pit stop on his 7th lap on the set of mediums, going to have DRS on the McLaren. Is he going to pull it off? He's going to back out, and is just not looking to get any trouble come his way, so he's just going to back out for the time being. In the meantime, Proxa and Jay are going side by side. There's also Amateur Gaming going side by side with Cuba once again. Jay looks like he got too late on the brakes. He's going to lose out the position on the Ferrari. Let's see how it goes for them. We have not Colored Lonely, Amateur Gamer side by side with Cuba once again. Let's see who gets the better end of it as they approach once again the chicane. There could be contact. I believe there was contact with Cuba, and Cuba is in the wall. Cuba is in the wall. Managed to reverse. He has damage on the right hand side of the car, and is going to come a prey to Delta. Let's see how it goes. The Ferrari, is he going to be able to overtake? Yes, Delta takes it inside into turn 1. Ooh, that was almost contact there as well. Cuba, unfortunately, suffering damage there on his squabble with Jay. Delta is not going to back out. He has much fresher tires, softer tires as well. He's tried to go for the switch back into the chicane. Doesn't quite get the space required. Cuba got overtaken by Lasher, so of course Lasher moves up to P8. He gets DRS on Proxa, who also has DRS on the car ahead, but of course the slipstream isn't as effective for the Ferrari as it is for the Haas, so he's going to be able to just stick very closely to the rear diffuser of the car ahead of him. Cuba and Delta come to blows once again. Finally, the Ferrari, using DRS, gets past the Toro Rosso on the hard compound of tires, and Cuba is demoted to P10. He's coming back, and there's contact with the Ferrari. That was quite uncalled for, just missing his braking zone, and gets himself even further down the order. His problems just became a tad worse. Of course, now jumping back to the Romanian driver of the Haas, he's going to have a hard time overtaking Proxa because the Austrian is taking slipstream and DRS from the car ahead of him. So Jay is protecting Proxa from getting too troubled by the Haas, as Jay takes another 3-second time penalty, which is rather unfortunate. Amateur Gamer is also 7/10 away from his teammate, and we have Brazen closing in on Cohen Blake. Cohen Blake, who has not pit stopped yet. Cohen Blake is going for the 1 stop from mediums to hards, so it's definitely going to be interesting to see how much time he's going to lose. Of course, at this point, Cohen Blake is going to pit soon, so Cohen Blake is going to be undercutting Brazen, but then Brazen is also going to come out of the pits on his last stint on the mediums on brand new tires. and very quick as well. So Bridgen finally got through Coe and Blake. Let's see how it goes for them. Looks like Cat in the meantime has retired from the session, or maybe disconnected, because his Renault is ghosted. As we have George in P3 already, 2.5 seconds away from Colored Lonely. So George looks like he is feeling more comfortable on the circuit Gilles Villeneuve than his Serbian teammate. The championship leader is not having the smoothest of sailing today. As we have Jay very close to Amateur Gamer. The slipstream and the RS has enabled him to get closer to his teammate as Black Widow goes into the pits to get rid of a set of softs going into a set of hards, and Amateur Gamer gets another 5 second of penalty, I believe that was. So unfortunately for him, that might really take a knock at his chances of finishing in the top 5. Radek gets a 3-second time penalty. He also came to blows with Gozieg a while ago, but Gozieg has lost tremendous amount of time. Maybe there was contact. Aziox, the Frenchman, gets a 3-second time penalty. His day goes from bad to very bad at this point. Cohen Blake is trying his best to still maintain himself within a second, despite his tires having the double of the usage as Brazian's mediums. Cohen Blake is still trying to hold on to it, just trying to get the RS and the slipstream so he doesn't lose as much time as he could otherwise. Jay gets the RS once again on his teammate. Not going to be enough for him to pull the trigger on it. Not going to be enough for him to try to move up into P5 just yet. We have Radek closing in on Cuba. Is he going to pull the trigger? No, he's too far behind. But he does have the softer, fresher tire at this point. He does get better exits out of the last chicane. Going to have the RS at the back of his Mercedes, and even without any bit of ceremony, he's just going to get himself passed up into the top 10. Is the Czech driver of the Mercedes. Of course, they are teammates. Just Cuba, because he arrived late to the lobby, he couldn't pick his car, so that's why he's racing on a Toro Rosso today. But they are actually both McLaren drivers that compose the lineup, both of them from the Czech Republic. So every single time I mention the Czech driver of the Mercedes, I guess I need to be a bit more specific. Looking back to P6 once again, we have Jay giving close chase once again to Amateur Gamer. Mode number 4 of the RS chosen by the British driver, and Amateur Gamer just lifts off. Let's see his teammate through. Not really a point in causing any issues. He lifted off a little bit too much perhaps, and as you can see in terms of the ERS management, Amateur Gamer is really struggling now with his management. I am guessing he pushed really hard trying to maintain Jay behind him, and of course when Jay adds the slipstream and the RS of the advantage over his teammate had to go quite high on ERS to defend, and of course lap after lap that is eventually going to make you run out of battery to defend. So Jay is back into the top 5. Proxa P7, Delta P8, Lasher is still trying to give close chase to his rival. Crime goes into the pits to get rid of his soft tires, I assume into a set of hards. Yes, it is the white marked hard tires on the Alfa Romeo, who's currently in 15th place. So he's going to need to have a very good 20 laps until the end of the race on that set of hards, so he can take it to the end and still claim a few positions. Lasher has had a quite bad second sector, already lost quite a bit of time to Delta. 1.5 over 1.5 seconds is the difference between the Haas and the Ferrari. Jumping back to the top 5, we have Amateur Gamer still within a second of his teammate. His teammate looks like he's faster at this point, but yeah, Amateur Gamer is able to keep up, if not for the fact that he also needs to conserve his energy. So at this point, it's really hard for Amateur Gamer to be able to do anything to gain any advantage on his teammates or any other driver, because he really needs to save some ERS. He's already lost out on the right to DRS at this point, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. Now, looking at the gaps between each driver, they're all over a second apart from each other.
And we finally have Cohen Blake coming into the pits after 15 laps on the hards. He's going for a set of, after 15 laps on the mediums, he's going for a set of the white marked hards. And he's going to come out of the pits, I would say, in P7, maybe P8. Let's see, the Ferrari is coming through of Progza. Delta is not too far behind. Delta gets P7. Let's see, it's going to be close between the Ferrari and the Renault. Let's see, and Cohen Blake does get P7, but let's see on the traction. Delta, of course, has tires that are already up to temperature. Cohen Blake not only had harder tires, but also yet cold tires, so he's going to have to stick in P8 for the time being. He might also have a couple issues because he's going to have to deal with all the traffic ahead of him, right? I expect the medium runners to pit once more, and in fact, Cohen Blake hasn't lost that much time to the lead. What is it? 15 seconds? Between 15 and 20 seconds from Cohen Blake to Brazian. I expect Brazian to pit within the next 3 laps. So Cohen Blake is going to undercut him on that department, but then Brazian is going to have the medium tires while Cohen is going to have the hards. And of course, the mediums are going to be quicker, but they also degrade faster. And on this track, traction is quite important. So let's see how that one goes. In the meantime, throughout the lap, Progza has caught up to his... What? Has he not caught up? Oh, he had caught up to the ghost of Cat. So, okay, that confused me a little for a second there. But, okay, all is explained at this point. Delta did catch up to Progza. Now he's getting DRS. He had the right to DRS at least at the beginning of this lap. So, looks like he didn't have the greatest of turns 4 and 5 because he's already dropped out behind a second or above a second. Turned the gap between the two of them. Nonetheless, the Ferraris are going to keep giving chase to each other. Amateur Gamer is starting to claim a little bit of time to his teammate. I'm guessing at this point, Amateur Gamer is starting to regain his footing already. Feels like he recovered enough enough ERS. Doesn't get DRS at this point, but he is definitely closer than he was in the previous laps. So let's see how that one develops. Let's see if he's going to be able to come back to challenge for a place further up within the top 5. Colin only gets in the pits for a switch. Does he have a penalty? I guess he had a 5-second penalty, unless that was lag, because the mechanics were sitting idle there for a second. Colin only is also taking the yards to the end of the Grand Prix, and is going to come out of the pits in P9, so behind Cohen Blake and behind Lasher. We also have Cuba coming to the pits after completing... he actually gets a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, unfortunately for him. But yeah, he's going to get to switch tires from the hards. He's also going to switch the front wing, and a brand new set of yellow marked mediums on his tires is going to come out of the pits in P13, I would believe. And let's see what kind of pace he can get now on those mediums until the end of the Grand Prix. In the meantime, Cohen Blake has overtaken Lasher and is going to start to try... Sorry, he hasn't overtaken Lasher. He already came out of the pits ahead of Diaz. But he is losing time to Delta. That is a bit surprising to me. Delta, despite being on... medium tires that are closing the end of their life, is still not catching up, so that is a bit worrisome for the Renault driver. Crime gets another 3-second time penalty, unfortunately for him. Let's go take a look as Delta, potentially Progza had a mistake. Delta really caught up by a lot. Delta was catching up, but that was, for him to catch up that much, that was probably a mistake from Progza, losing the rear into one of the corners of the first sector. Let's see, he's now going to get DRS coming out of this turn number 7, I believe this is. So it gets now up through the gears into the braking zone. Not going to pull the trigger on it just yet out of turn 9. So let's see how it goes. He's going to pull the trigger into the hairpin, or is he going to try to overtake on the DRS stretch? Let's see who gets the better exit out of the hairpin. Both drivers with a good exit. Looks like Progza got a slightly better one though. Let's see how it goes. Crime with another 3-second time penalty. Very undisciplined race from the Alfa Romeo driver. And yeah, Delta just using the DRS. Even before the braking zone, he was already ahead of his teammates, who might also be in the same situation. Oh, Delta did get a penalty there as he went through his teammates. And Amateur Gamer is on the same story as Delta was. Amateur Gamer has caught up to Jay. The gap is already below Alpha second. So Amateur is going to have the tools in a couple laps to overtake his teammate and try to get into the top 3. Of course, these guys still have to pit. Colored Lonely is going for the undercut. That's why he's back down to P8. But he was, I believe, ahead of the Williams in their net positioning. Of course, the Williams drivers are going to go for another set of mediums, while Colored Lonely is going to maintain himself on the hards. He is 10 seconds behind Cohen Blake at this point. So let's see how quick he is compared to the Renault driver. Lasher comes to blows with Radek as they approach the end of the DRS zone. Brazen is finally going to the pits. Let's see where he comes out in comparison to Cohen Blake. That's actually something I'm quite interested on at this point. We have yellow flags somewhere. Did Proxa make a mistake? Proxa, looks like, yeah, I would say Proxa did make a mistake. And yeah, there's front wing damage on Proxa as he went into contact with the Wallow champions. Radek is trying to catch up to Lasher, but not enough at this point to get up into P9. So, of course, Lasher is going to get past him. Look, I mean, Lasher has 12 laps fresher tires at this point, so not really much he could do, I would say. So, yeah, the Mercedes driver, if he wants to get past him, is going to have to be patient and wait for the opportunity to strike. Of course, during the second sector, it's going to be a hard task because the traction is very important around this track, especially in the first and second sectors, and Lasher has much better tires, so going to have much better traction coming out of the corners. Amateur Gamer half a second behind Jay as Crime has retired from the session. Amateur Gamer is going to pull off to the left hand side, and even before the braking zone, easy peasy lemon squeezy gets the RS, gets the move done, and is going to take that one to get into the pits. Brazian and Cohen Blake comes to blows, and Brazian just overtook Cohen Blake, so there goes the chance of the Verano to fight for the win. Even though he can still get a podium because some of his drivers just pitted. And let's see, Amateur Gamer is still coming out of the pits. He's actually going to come out really far behind, even behind Colored Lonely, who was 10 seconds behind the Renault. So yeah, it is quite a big gap. Oh no, coming out of the pits, Colored Lonely was overtaken, but he does get a better exit. It's going to be side by side into turn 5. Ooh, it is not turn 5, turn 4, sorry. Coming out of turn 5. It is Colored Lonely not able to pull the trigger, just managed to keep his head cool, just give it a second thought, and managed or decided to back out from that one. Brazen is really fast at this point already, 2.5 seconds quicker than the Renault of Cohen Blake. In the meantime, we also have Amateur Gamer going to start closing in. We're going to keep an eye out for how that gap develops. Lonely, of course, also Alpha second from the McLaren, despite the McLaren being on mediums and the Racing Point being on the hard tires. It's going to be interesting to see how that one goes. Brazen does get the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Brazen, who had his best finishing result with the P2 at China, hasn't scored any points ever since China. Got 5th at Australia, 7th at Bahrain, 2nd at China, hasn't scored a point since. And that could be great if he could come back with a race win. Coming out with a bang and get his first win of the season. You have Jay attacking Colored Lonely at this point. There's contact with the Racing Point and he's in the wall. He resets the car. Doesn't look like he got damage. Yeah, he didn't get damage, but it's now coming under pressure from Lasher. Let's see how it goes between the two of them. And the Haas gets himself ahead. Up to P7 is the Haas at this point. But yeah, a little bit rude there from Jay and Colored Lonely. Not really giving much space to each other. I suspect that was the cause of
the accident as Delta gets jumped by Brazian even before the breaking the DRS zone for the most part. Brazian already pulled off a couple car lengths on the German before the German goes into the pit, so he's going to get another stint of 10 laps, potentially a set of softs. Yes, looks like it is the soft tires for the Ferrari. Going to have the soft tires until the end of the race for 10 laps. Is going to maybe try to get the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Already out of the top 5 at this point, but of course he's on soft, so he can maybe push a little bit and pressurize the Williams in front of him. 3 seconds and a half there or thereabout is the gap between the Ferrari and Jay at this point, so let's see how that one goes. Radek also goes into the pits, going to switch for a brand new set of the soft tires as well. Going to come out of the pits in about 13th place. Black Widow with another 3-second time penalty as she gets promoted into the top 10. That really might compromise her chances. We have Cuba behind on mediums and Gozieg on even fresher mediums, not too far behind them. So it's going to be a tough time for the Dutch driver of the Red Bull to keep his rivals or her rivals behind. Brazian takes a 3-second time penalty as he gets himself past Georgia as the Bolivian driver goes into the pits. Let's see what place is going to come out of the pits at. Does he come out ahead of the Williams? We're going to find out. Cohen Blake comes out ahead, I believe. And yes, he is ahead, and George is also ahead of the Williams on fresher tires. So after the first round of pit stops, George was able to jump the Williams, and now he has the freshest tires out of everyone on track at the moment. So if anyone could challenge for the win, it's really going to be him in case Brazian does any in case Brazian does any mistakes. Lasher is out of the Grand Prix. Not sure if he came to blows with Colored Lonely, but Lasher is out of the Grand Prix. Let me take a look at where he... Yeah, Lasher is in the wall there. I'm not sure if Colored Lonely had contact with the Haas, but the Haas is out of the Grand Prix. Cuba gets a 3-second time penalty as Cuba is already past Black Widow, and Goziag has lost a couple car lengths on the duo ahead of him. He was quite close to Cuba, but that's not the case anymore. Cohen Blake has gotten overtaken by Georgia as the Bolivian gets the DRS and overtakes him with ease coming into the last chicane. So Cohen Blake, he might be able to get P3. It's going to be tough for him because Amateur Gamer and Jay are no slouches, at least from what they are showcasing here on their debut Grand Prix. But yeah, Cohen Blake just missed out on the podium, 4th place at... sorry, no, I was actually looking at the wrong driver. It was Gary Gunny's teammate who narrowly missed on the podium. But yeah, Cohen Blake hasn't finished and hasn't scored any points since Azerbaijan. And yeah, Azerbaijan is the only time he scored points. So unfortunately for him, it's going to be quite hard for him to get a good performance, especially it's going to come under very high pressure from his closest rivals behind, both Williamses, as they are not only on fresher tires but also softer tires. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how that one develops until the end of the Grand Prix. Amateur Gamer does get a better exit out of the hairpin, and let's try to take a look at how much Amateur Gamer closes in on Cohen Blake just at the end of lap number 28, beginning of lap 29, I believe it is. As Black Widow gets another 3-second time penalty. Very unfortunate stuff to see from her, but unfortunately it is what it is. Not the most disciplined race, if that's even a word. Not the best discipline being showcased by Black Widow today at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Now jumping back to Delta, who is on softs, on his 3rd lap on softs, and he is closing in on the Williams of Jay. We might have Delta splitting the Williamses and getting himself in the top 5 in the laps to come. He's even closer to Jay than Amateur Gamer is to Cohen Blake. As Georgia makes a mistake, it looks like Georgia loses the lead coming out of turn 10. He's in the wall. He's actually accelerating, having a bit of trouble, massive damage to his front wing, and he's going to have to go to the pits. Disastrous moment there for the Racing Point's driver. Disastrous moment for sure. And yeah, he's going to have to get back into the pits for a replacement. He had really in control a top 2 finish. And unfortunately, that is what happens. Cohen Blake gets a 3-second time penalty. Amateur Gamer is going to overtake him with ease, I would say, into turn number 1. Let's see, they're going side by side into turn 1. The Williams gets himself on the inside. Cohen Blake lets him through. And Amateur jumps up to P2. Jay is not too far behind, and Delta is not too far behind the British driver of the Williams. That is for sure. So let's see how that one develops. As Delta is going to try to capitalize on any mistakes from the rivals ahead. Jay going a bit wide into turn number 7. So Jay is going to come under pressure as we get through the DRS zone. Of course, Jay also had DRS of his own because of Cohen Blake. But yeah, that might not be the case into the next DRS zone. Cohen Blake might be too far away from Jay. Let's find out in a couple moments. Is Delta going to get the slipstream and DRS on Jay? He is going to get those indeed. The softs also allowed him to get a very good exit, but Jay getting the DRS and slipstream of Cohen Blake, not allowing the Ferrari to get any closer. We might even have the second Williams overtaking Cohen Blake in the exact same spot as the first one did. Let's see, Jay goes on the inside into turn 1. Yes, he does complete the maneuver up to P3. Is the Williams, and Cohen Blake is just dropping places and over fist at this point. You're really not able to settle onto a competitive rhythm on his Renault, and it's just dropping down the order. Cohen Blake getting to the inside of turn number 6, getting defensive from Delta. Delta, of course, on the soft is going to get a much better exit. Let's see how it goes. Their eyes wide open at the back of his Renault, but not close enough. He knows he needs to dispatch the Renault as quickly as he can. Oh, a little, that could have been dicey, the angle there. The car could have complained quite a bit. I've seen people spin out with less steering angle there, but nonetheless, Delta gets past Cohen Blake at the cost of the gap between Delta and the Williams themselves. 2.5 seconds separates the Ferrari from the Williams, and now Cohen Blake might have a comeback at the Ferrari. For not much separating the two of them, about 4/10. Let's see how it goes. Amateur Gamer gets another 3-second time penalty as Brazen keeps on pulling away. Asiox with another time penalty to his name as well. So a lot of people getting a lot of penalties. It isn't much drivers getting penalties, but those who get penalties get a lot of them. As we have Goziag. Is there yellow flags because of Goziag? Not sure. Yellow flags in sector 2, not sure why though. And with all that, George has dropped out of the top 10 even. So George probably replaced his front wing. He needs to give it his best. Basically qualifying laps at this point if he wants to get back into the points paying positions. Jumping back to Jay, who I believe is probably, yes, George did get the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Jay is very close to Amateur Gamer. The British driver might try to take advantage of his teammate. Let's see how it goes for them. The DRS is going to be open at the back of the British driver's Williams. Let's see how it goes. Mode number 4 of VRS comparing to Amateur Gamer. Jay does have the advantage on ERS. They are going side by side into the chicane. Let's see how it goes. And yes, Jay pulls through. And ooh, Jay getting on the wall. There's a piece of carbon fiber from his front wing missing now. The end plate on the right side of his car is missing a piece there as Brazen gets himself in the pits. 3 laps to go, and Brazen is in the pits for soft tires. Was he on very poor condition on his tires and was trying to avoid a puncture? Not sure what happened, but he just gave up the lead of the race to Jay. Amateur Gamer now, he needs to settle himself in and try to get himself closing in to have DRS at his disposal. He doesn't have so at this point. Delta does have DRS and of course the better traction on his soft tires. Let's see how it goes for him as he's getting a much better turn 9. He's going to get alongside the Williams and he does get past. Even though we must pay attention to the DRS, we are through the detection zone. I am not sure who got
the right to the arrest. Let's find out in a second. Was it Delta or was it Amateur Gamer? We're going to find out in a second. It wasn't the Williams, it was the Ferrari. The Ferrari is going to have the arrest. Amateur Gamer did get a better exit out of the hairpin, but of course the arrest of Delta is not going to allow the Williams to pull any overtaking attempts at these points. 3 laps to go in this Canadian Grand Prix. Jay is just a little above a second over Delta. Georgia just disposes of Radek as Brazen gets past Colored Lonely, of course, and not really much of a fighting chance or by the racing point. Let's see, it's going to be a Williams winning the race on his debut, or is Delta going to, just like his teammate who did last race, going to make it the second win in a row for the Ferrari, with, of course, just like Proxa did at Monaco, his first win and his first podium as well at the end of this race. Let's see how it goes going on board with Delta. Of course, Jay, in terms of ERS, Jay and Delta have basically the same amount available to them on the battery charge, but Delta, I'm not sure if he's going to try to overtake him only in the last lap, but we are going to find out soon enough. The difference in terms of tire usage is only 1 lap between Delta and Jay, but Jay is on a harder compound, so it's definitely going to be interesting. Let's see who gets the better exit out of the chicane. Looks like it was Delta getting the best of it. Let's see how it goes. He's going to pull the trigger on the Williams. Doesn't look like so for the time being. The Amateur Gamer is really dropped off. It's already almost 2 seconds away from the leading pair. Let's see, we are going to keep on battling for Delta and Jay, juking it out for the lead. Jay is doing his best to try to survive. Let's see if he can maybe pull off an amazing second sector and not give the chance to Delta to overtake. Georgia also overtakes Cuba, so both Brazian and Georgia are going on a charge through the field at this point. Georgia is now 9 seconds behind Proxa, so I'm not sure he's going to be able to get any further than 8th place after his mistake. Brazian 5 seconds away from Cohen Blake. Cohen Blake is on 17 laps old hard tires, but I'm not sure if Brazian is quick enough to get above 5th place. Let's go on board with Delta once again so we can understand who gets the better exit. It looks like it was Jay getting a very good exit out of the hairpin. Of course, Delta is going to be able to claim the gap right back with the slipstream and the DRS. Let's see how it goes for them. Delta is actually approaching that chicane quite on the middle of the track, not really giving him the best of angles into the chicane. That's compromising him a little bit. And we have started the last lap of this Grand Prix. Delta has Jay right on his side. Jay getting a bit slow into turn 2, trying to compromise the exiting speed of Delta. Maybe it's just going to try to do the same into the hairpin. Delta needs to take off that. Might have hit the wall there. No, he did not. No wing damage on the Ferrari. Let's see how it goes for them. Delta losing the wheel a little bit on the transition there between the left hander, right hander. He's going to have the arrest this time around though, but he's further away from Jay than he was in the previous lap. Let's see how it goes between them as we get to turns 8 and 9. We have yellow flags on sector 2 for some reason. Let's see how it goes. Colored Lonely overtakes Brazian. There must have been a mistake from Brazian. Want to try to take a look at that one? Yes, there was indeed a mistake from the Red Bull driver. Jumping now to Delta. He's 7 tenths away from Jay. Is it going to be enough? Is it going to be enough? I am not sure at all. He's going to have DRS. He's going to have the slipstream. He's going to try his best to close in on the Williams, trying to get a better exit out of the chicane. Let's see who does get it. Who does get the better of the exits? Looks like Delta or Jay did just enough. And there you have it. On his debut, Jay is going to cross over the line to come with actually P3. Amateur Gamer, taking advantage of the penalties, is the winner of the Canadian Grand Prix. On his debut, it is the Williams of Amateur Gamer taking home the win. Delta comes home in P2. Colored Lonely in P3. Jay in P4. Cohen Blake in P5. So Colored Lonely was so far behind, still managed to claim a podium. What a disastrous race from Jay in terms of the penalties. Look at that. He crossed the line in first place. Finishes outside of the podium. Cohen Blake gets P5. Proxa P6. Plays in P7. George P8. Kuba P9 and Black Widow P10. Will Radek get above? Yes, he is on penalties. Radek gets P10. Cat a lap down and already disconnected. Is in 13th. And we have... Oh, it was actually P9? P9 for Gosiak. Radek I believe, is out of the points. I don't remember who was previously in P9, but yeah, was Jag claiming 2 points for the McLaren team. So, third race in a row in the points for the McLaren driver. But there you have it. What a debut race from both Williams drivers. Even though not all of them are on the podium, they still got 2 cars on the top 5. So, great race for the driver from the Northern Ireland. It is Amateur Gamer taking the win of the Canadian Grand Prix on his debut. It's going to be Delta getting his first podium of his season with the 2nd place, and it is then the Racing Points of Colored Lonely claiming P3 and another podium. It is the 5th podium in a row for Colored Lonely, the only driver in the top 10 to not get any penalties, I believe. Going to wait a moment. Yeah, the only driver in top 10 to not get any penalties. No wonder he jumped from P5 or P6, whatever he was, to get himself the top of the... Give me a moment, guys. That's kind. Okay, guys. With that, I won't be able to do the interviews because I just got an important phone call. So this is it, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me the like button. If you did not, the dislike button is right beside it. Hope to see you guys next time, and have a wonderful day. Goodbye.